Next up, though, another big-time conversation with Christian McCaffrey. You guys are going to absolutely love this one. This was a real treat. Let's see what Christian had to say. Very excited to be joined now by 49ers star running back Christian McCaffrey. Christian, what's going on, buddy?
Not too much, man. Appreciate you having me on.
You're here on behalf of Ollipop. Very excited to talk about that because, spoiler alert, I'm a consumer. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. But I got to ask you, man, what is the question that you've been getting so far that you're sick of being asked?
I'm still early in the process. I'm not sick of being asked anything yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good so far. You ask me in about a couple hours, I'm sure I'll have answers for you.
I was going to say, well, hopefully we don't start off with one here.
Something fantasy related?
I got nothing fantasy related for you. So, there we go.
Then
Perfect.
maybe it's good.
Okay, well, maybe. We'll see. All right, Christian, this past year you had 480 combined targets, rush attempts in the regular season and the playoffs. That is the fourth most for a running back since the year 2000. And spoiler alert on the rest of the list, it's a lot of guys that aren't, playing now. It's very unusual for a running back to get that level of workload in today's game. Number one, how are you feeling? Number two, how do you keep yourself in shape to be able to handle that level of workload?
No, I feel great. I think, when you know that that's the workload that you're going to have, you prep for it, and all offseason you train for it. And that's why you work so hard in the offseason. I always say, the offseason is really where you build the foundation that lasts throughout the season. Football is inevitable, man. Injuries happen. Sometimes you get rolled up on bad and stuff happens. But, the better prepared you can be, which starts really, in February and into March, the quicker you can get that going and get that process going to build that base so that throughout the season you can withstand the storm, the better it is.
Yeah, and you guys are always – I feel like there's always something I read about NFL players where it's like, man, they're doing that from a training perspective, from a recovery perspective. Honestly, listen, I'm not nearly taking the damage that you are, but I'm trying to do the best for my health. I'm taking some notes every here and now again. What do you got that's like a recovery thing or something that you're doing that might take people by surprise?
Man, it's a good question because, and I'm always slow to answer that question because there's such a big menu of items that can help. And it's very specific and pertinent to what's going on.
Yeah.
For someone like myself, it's more of understanding conceptually what you're trying to achieve and then doing whatever it takes to get there. Sometimes you don't have access to all of the modalities and all of the tools, but there's different ways to find it. But I always say, man, the best way to stay in shape is move and eat correctly and sleep correctly and do the fundamentals. As many gadgets as there are in the world now, it's always the fundamentals that if you don't do those correctly, those gadgets aren't going to have the same effect. And so it's really it's a year-long dedication to trying to do the right thing and every single thing you're doing. I also have incredible people on my staff.
Sure.
I think people forget it. We have full staffs individually of people, of trainers, bodywork maintenance people, chiropractors, chefs, whatever it may be. That's our job, is to invest in our bodies. So, I have a great team, and they make it really easy for me to just trust what they're doing and execute.
It is about those fundamentals. I say it all the time on my show. Hey, good nutritious breakfast to start the day, walk immediately afterwards. Then I'm a good person the rest of the day. If I don't get those two things in, I might be a real mess the rest of the day.
But that's good you found that. A lot of people have, that's another thing. These guys, they're Hall of Famers that train completely different than me. They might have different schedules, different routines, but it works for them. And I think that's part of it too, is routine, consistency, and finding what works for you.
Okay, so talking to just about me and sort of some of my work. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, but I do a charting series called Reception Perception on wide receivers. I chart route running for these guys, where they line up, which type of route concepts they're running from which positions, how often you're getting open against man, zone, press coverage. But some of the feedback I get from viewers, subscribers, whatever, is that I don't chart these other positions, just wide receivers, no tight ends, no running backs. You are the most prolific receiving running back in the league. Do you think I am making a mistake by not grouping in some of these running backs like yourself with the wide receivers?
Well, I think you can always add. I don't know if you're making a mistake, because that is good information. But if there's one thing I've learned about football, is that every position affects the other position in ways. And so if you have a guy like a Bijan or a Kamara or myself or whoever it may be, it feels like every back in the league now, Gibbs, they can do anything. Mm-hmm. And when you look at how it affects a defense and how it affects the receivers, it's a big deal. Coordinators are all about matchups now and matchup issues. And so space is not only dictated off of just, can this guy beat man-to-man coverage? Well, not every defense is playing man-to-man coverage. And so some of the statistics behind, football stats.
Sure.
They're way deeper. There's way more depth into why certain things are happening, and a lot of it's based off of scheme and matchups and putting guys in positions to win. I think that's something that that's why, to me, the best statistic you can look at when it comes to football is simply watching the tape.
Right.
And you can really see how things affect other things, right? Stats are a tool, and they're one way to look at the game, but the silent tape and watching the game is the best way to learn football.
Even as somebody that is charting all of that film and trying to quantify something that's inherently qualitative, you have to admit that there's no way to perfectly isolate everything in football. And especially in today's game, you mentioned this, defenses have really shifted from some of the more traditional just man coverage looks to, whether it's quarters or just more zoned up looks. I mean, it's the receiver position and just the passing game in general in the NFL is so much different than when I started covering the league in 2014. What do you think, as one of the best offensive players in the league, has sort of gone into that transition from the defensive side of it?
Well, the rule changes are big, and I think when you look at the history of the NFL and the trends of it, back in the day, there was big bruising type running backs, and so when you look at the matchups, again, all about matchups, you would have big bruising type linebackers.
Sure.
Well, somewhere along the line, the game slowly started to change to more of a passing league where running backs now are running routes on big bruising linebackers. Well, now teams are drafting linebackers that run 4.4 that might be a little smaller, but they can hit. It's not like they can't hit. And so it's getting faster, it's getting stronger. And the way it works is now all of a sudden you have these smaller defenses. Well, a guy like Derrick Henry is going to have 1,500 every year because he's how do you stop the run with 215, 218, 220-pound linebackers when he's 250? And so it's really about matchups and what you want to commit your scheme to, who you want to be. And, from a defensive side, they're running, the creativity is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
But to me, the fundamentals of attitude, of effort, of blocking and tackling will be true in football for the rest of time. And so the more you can get guys who do the fundamentals correctly to buy into your scheme, whether it's offensively or defensively, the better your team, in my opinion, is going to be.
This year, we saw more teams move to some more heavier personnel packages, whether it was more tight ends on the field, more 12 personnel, 13 personnel, in your division especially. But I feel like Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers has kind of been skewing into that more than other offenses, really, since he got to San Francisco. And I think maybe a little bit ahead of the trend there. Do you notice that stuff as well when you're looking across the league? And how do you think the game has changed because of those heavier personnel packages? Yeah, well, coaches are having to adapt way quicker. You have full off seasons to prepare, especially when you're talking about football in your division. If you're a really good, wide zone team, or you're really good, whatever it may be, scheme, teams have all off season to, hey, this is what we want to stop. This is what we want to do to try to defend it. And so adaptability and being proactive in that is huge. Being able to kind of see where the trends are going and adjust to them, and then get your players to buy into that, and kind of matching your players with your scheme. I mean, that's one of the biggest challenges of football, because you don't have 100 guys. You got to, and you don't have all the cap and all these other, whatever it may be. But you said it best. It's, there's too many variables to put football into one box. I think that's why it's the coolest sport to watch. That's why it's so fun to cover, man. It really is any given Sunday. It really is unpredictable. Each game has a life of its own, and I think that's why people love it. You never know what's going to happen. So I mentioned you are probably the most prolific receiving running back in the NFL, especially when you're just watching a guy as a true route runner doing more wide receiver-ish things at the running back position. I would say Bijan Robinson is probably second best to me right now. He's closest to you in that regard. He's somebody we're going to have on the set tomorrow. What do you think of him as sort of in that same variety of a Christian McCaffrey type receiving back? Well, I got to train with him this summer, and it was such a cool opportunity for me because I saw it firsthand of what makes him so special. And then you watch his season and how it played out this year. But man, he's unbelievable. He can really do anything and do it well. He's not just somebody who does everything good. He does everything great. Yeah. And that's why he's such an effective offensive weapon and a generational talent. I don't have enough good things to say about him. And he's the best guy, too. I mean, when you have somebody that's such a star and is that humble, and it makes you want to root for him. No doubt. It's pretty cool to see. I mentioned I'm a receiver guy. That's mostly what I focus on. One of the receivers on your team that I think people don't understand how good he is Ricky Pearsall. Man, it's like tell us about Ricky Pearsall, like both as a player, as a person, because I think like he's just scratching the surface of what he can be. I think he's such a great route runner, so explosive. Tell the people about Ricky Pearsall, what you think about him.
Yeah, Ricky's amazing, man. There's nothing he can't do. He really is a special player. You know, I think he had such a tough start to his career, and you know, obviously all the stuff that happened was so unfortunate. But I see him every day, and you know, he works so hard. He wants to be great. He has the perfect attitude you would want in a receiver, willing to do anything. Wants to be out there, and just a gift to have in the locker room, man. And you said it. He's scratching the surface. He's already so good, but he can only get better, and it's going to be so fun to watch because I think he really is a hell of a player.
You said the word willing. That to me is like you got to be willing as a receiver to do a lot of different things in today's game. Play multiple positions, get involved in the run game, clear things out. You mentioned 11 guys working as one. That's one of the like underrated words for wide receiver now. You got to be willing to do multiple things. Yeah,
you know, in offenses now, receivers are a lot of times the ones that make those big runs happen. Because once you get past the first and second level, if the receivers get, you know, hands on these DBs, there's so much space. But also it ties into some of the play actions. If you're, you know, push cracking a safety, and you make that look the exact same as you do, you know, a certain route. Well, now it helps you out. So, you know, you get rewarded for blocking correctly in the receiving game if you have the right play caller. But, you know, the sacrificial clear routes, that's a whole aspect of the NFL that people don't understand either. You know, you're running this is for the love of the game route. You know you're not getting the ball, but you're getting your brother open on a corner or something like that. Those are big deals, man. And those are the sacrificial plays that I think don't get talked about enough. But those are the plays that make football fun and make it where you have generational talent type players who are doing that. And when your best players are doing that, it trickles down. It's like, okay, if I want to be great, this is the kind of stuff I have to do. So those are the culture setting plays.
For the podcast listeners, I'm laughing, I'm smiling over here because you said sacrificial. This is a thing I've been saying for like the last 3 years. Like the sacrificial X receiver is really, it's an expanding role now that I know it doesn't put the fantasy points up or anything, but that's bringing the entire offense together. So I love that you actually just literally used the word sacrificial. That's very funny. Okay, you're here on behalf of Ollipop. Tell the people what you got going on there.
Yeah, man, I partnered with Ollipop. Easy partnership for me. Yeah. I drink them all the time. But, you know, as somebody that's health conscious, it's a soda that you can feel good about drinking. Yeah. You know, super minimal sugar, high in fiber. It's a prebiotic drink. It's super, you know, it's really good for you. And it tastes incredible. You know, I think a lot of times you get these drinks that they're supposed to be healthy, and then, you know, they taste healthy. They taste like, I can tell they're trying. Yeah. But it's not like that with Ollipop, and that's why it's so cool for me. It's the best treat of the day.
Favorite flavor?
Well, I love root beer, but I'll be honest, my favorite flavor is crisp apple.
Okay.
Underrated flavor, and people don't talk about it because you hear about the colas, you hear about the root beers, but try the crisp apple. It's refreshing as ever.
I'm a vintage cola guy myself because I gave up drinking soda like 2013, over a decade ago. So it's like, ooh, this is a nice little treat. Nice little treat, and you know, you got to feel good about the gut health. That's very important, people. Hey, Christian McCaffrey, appreciate you stopping by, man. Have a good offseason. Stay healthy. Look forward to watching next year.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.